I'm Anthea Lawson, and I co-author Victorian set Sensual Romantic Adventure with my husband. That's a romantic adventure in itself. Our second novel, All He Desires, is out from Kensington in November 2008, and it features the story of a young woman who's injured while vacationing on the island of Crete. This is set in the Victorian era, and travel could be full of hazards during that time. While on the island of Crete, she falls under the care of a reclusive doctor, an English doctor who has taken refuge from his tragic past. And I'm going to read an excerpt. This is where she's first brought to his door, and he's very reluctant to do any doctoring, but they impose upon him because of the gravity of her injuries. The shadowed figure moved closer to the light. He was tall, his hair the color of night. The torchlight painted hollows under his cheeks and cast his uncompromising nose in sharp relief. He did not look like a doctor, not with his creased clothing and untamed hair, a scowl making his face even more forbidding. When his gaze moved to her, Caroline felt it, a nearly physical sensation, like standing under a storm cloud just before the fury of wind and rain lashed down. She shivered. He regarded her for several moments, measured by the rapid beat of her heart. His eyes seemed black in the flickering light. That intent gaze moved down to her dusty boots, then returned to her face. He began to close the door. "Wait!" Maggie stepped forward, bringing Caroline with her. "You cannot refuse. You are English." "Oh?" He paused with one hand on the doorframe, his lips twisted as though he had tasted something bitter. "I don't see that it signifies." "Of course it does. This is Miss Caroline Huntington, the niece of the Earl of Twickenham. How can you consider yourself a gentleman if you turn her away?" "Who says I consider myself a gentleman?"
Do you think you'll ever write a hero who doesn't have a troubled past?
I am a real sucker for troubled pasts. Ironically, I'm married to a very well-adjusted fellow who, if he has a troubled secret in his past, I have yet to discover it after 16 years of marriage. But you never know.
Wow, 16 years ago, internet dating.
Yeah, pre-internet, really. It was the early days of a dial-up bulletin board system. Sort of dates me a little, I know.
So how did you find the fiddle?
My mother is a classical musician, and I began playing the violin at the age of 8, and then decided I needed to forge my own path and took up Irish fiddling.
Are you Irish?
Not a bit.